preview images I'd never seen before, prices for different types of content, tip menus for special requests. I screenshotted everything, including our bank statements that showed I'd paid for the camera equipment she was using for this. Each image felt like finding out about another lie, but I needed evidence of what she'd been doing behind my back. My phone lit up with a message from my buddy from high school who'd heard something was going down. He sent me a video clip someone had saved before Amelie locked everything down. I recognized my own hoodie hanging on her bedroom door in the background. The timestamp showed it was filmed 3 weeks ago while I was pulling a double shift at work. I saved the video to my cloud storage and added it to my growing folder of evidence. The next morning, I drove to the walk-in clinic downtown and told the receptionist I needed a full STI panel. She handed me forms to fill out, and I sat in the waiting room surrounded by other people dealing with their own problems. When the nurse called me back, she was kind, but professional. As I explained, I didn't know how many partners my ex had been with. She nodded like she'd heard this story before and started preparing the tests. The whole thing felt like accepting this horrible new reality where I couldn't even trust what had happened to my own body. Thomas called while I was waiting for my test results, and his voice sounded heavy. He admitted he'd suspected Amelie was doing stuff online for money, but thought it was just photos, not this whole operation. His voice cracked when he said he should have warned me sooner, but he didn't know how to bring it up. I told him it wasn't his fault, even though part of me wished someone had told me the truth months ago. My mom started calling and texting, saying she wanted the family to sit down together and talk this through. I texted back that I wasn't ready to be in the same room as Nick, and she needed to respect that boundary. She kept pushing, saying we were brothers and needed to work this out, but she didn't understand what they'd done to me yet. The nurse came back to draw my blood and asked gentle questions about my last exposure dates. I had to admit I didn't even know when Amelie was last faithful to me, if she ever was at all. She marked down that my last confirmed exposure was unknown and drew several vials of blood for the different tests. The whole process made me feel dirty, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. That afternoon, my email pinged with a message from Amelie since I'd blocked her phone number. She was asking to meet for closure and to discuss the pregnancy situation. She said we needed to talk about what happens next and figure out how to handle things. I stared at the email for 10 minutes before typing back that I'd consider meeting after I got my test results. I needed to protect myself first before dealing with whatever mess she and Nick had created. Thomas texted again saying Amelie was already telling people I'd been neglecting her, and that's why she turned to Nick. The story was spreading through our friend group, and everyone was picking sides without knowing the truth. I screenshotted her email and his texts, adding them to my evidence folder because I had a feeling I'd need proof of everything soon. My boss called to check on me and said HR had heard there might be some personal drama affecting me. I kept it vague but professional, just saying I was dealing with a family situation that would be resolved soon. He assured me my job was safe as long as I communicated about any time I needed off. At least one thing in my life was still stable, even if everything else was falling apart around me. 3 days later, I waited outside Amelie's building until I saw her car pull out of the parking lot heading to work. I had my old key and a couple boxes in my truck for getting my stuff out of there. The elevator ride up felt longer than usual, and my hands were shaking a little as I unlocked her door. Inside, the apartment smelled different, like cheap cologne and stale beer instead of the vanilla candles she used to burn. One of the guys from that